What's up, internet? My name's Ori. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Today is Thursday, September 7th, day number 37 inside the Big Brother house. Now, we did have an episode last night. It was the Veto episode. And listen, I'll be honest, there wasn't a lot that we really learned from the episode, but I do want to talk about it just a little bit. It was Tiny Veto, which is always kind of fun to watch, and we know that Cameron won. But we did also get to see, even before Cameron won Veto, and then afterwards, the potential idea that America should be the one to be going up on the block because she throws competitions. This was really America's episode. She did great, and it was a lot of fun in the DRs, where she was going off on Jared, saying, like, you're saying I threw competitions? You didn't even make it in the pressure cooker. I lasted almost 14 hours. Like, what are you talking about? This was very much the America episode. And other than that, there's the other thing we have to talk about. How Cameron used Veto, took himself off the block. Jag went up on the block. We saw all of that. But the big thing that is kind of still a talking point is Jared's use of a slur, the R word. And it was not mentioned at all, didn't even get brought up on the episode and addressed. And I think that's the biggest issue people have is we made a statement very early in the year that it was going to be a zero tolerance policy moving forward for hate speech. But the problem is, as soon as you do that, there's never going to be a line that's good enough for everybody. Right? There's always going to be things that people find hateful or offensive that aren't going to be covered by the policy. But to not address it at all then only makes more and more people upset with how they're dealing with it, which again is why I don't think the zero policy was a good policy really in the first place. But when you set that tone, you kind of have to follow through and at least address things when they come up. Since the show didn't, one of the things that was posted over on Instagram I'd like to share with you guys is from Jag's official account. And this is his family putting out a statement on kind of their thoughts on everything that's going on, because Jag actually works with the Special Olympics and kids with special needs and people with special needs as he coaches them as they do the different events. So they wanted to put this statement out there. Jag is a huge advocate and ally for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. He has dedicated nearly 13 years with the Special Olympics and has advocated actively supporting the spread the word to end the word campaigns for just as long. This cause is near and dear to our hearts. Jag's family, friends, and community are compelled to address an incident that occurred on season 25 of Big Brother. As many may already be aware, a house guest, Cirie Fields, used a derogatory term, the R word, when referring to fellow house guests. Such language is entirely unacceptable, particularly on a prominent platform like Big Brother. CBS Big Brother maintains a zero tolerance policy against hate speech, and have previously removed house guests for violating their code of conduct. Again, this is them saying we've set a policy, but now where does that end? Although CBS has been silent about about this incident, we wanted to address this issue and spread awareness. Using the R word diminishes the dignity and humanity of individuals with INDD, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and perpetuates harmful stereotypes. To further demonstrate our support, we are offering Team Jag shirts from which $5 of every purchase will be donated to our local Special Olympics organization. You can find the purchase link in Jag's Instagram bio story, Facebook, X, Twitter posts. And again, this comes from Jag's family, friends, and his community. It also here has an official response from the Special Olympics Instagram, where they say the Special Olympics stand behind Jag and his family and their condemnation of the use of the R word by a contestant on CBS's Big Brother. Jag has worked tirelessly to help our organization eradicate its use through education, advocacy, and inclusion. We are grateful that JAG's family will be donating to their local special needs programs through Team JAG merchandise. Words matter, and when we choose to include, everybody wins. And again, this is where I think people are kind of losing sight, is you might be okay with it, but others aren't. And the whole thing here is, when you start a zero tolerance on hate speech, the barometer and values for what you consider hate speech and what others consider hate speech is all over the place. So you'll never make everybody happy. If you kick somebody out for something that you don't think is offensive, you're going to be upset. But if they don't kick somebody out for something that you think is offensive, you're going to be upset. So it ends up with these lose-lose scenarios almost. So I don't know what the actual real best solution is. My personal opinion is they should go with something more like the Big Brother UK style. When something happens inside the house, they bring a house guest into the DR. They confront them with what they said verbatim. They will read them the transcript. They will show them a video if they want. And they will tell them, at this time, with these people, you said this. You also agreed to a code of conduct and how you were supposed to behave and act inside the house. These are against our rules. This is your official warning. They make them apologize for it, acknowledge that it was a thing, and then they tell them if it continues, they may be kicked from the game. And I think that is the best way to go about it. You address it, you bring it up, you show all the flaws because it's real, it's raw. And people make mistakes. That's the other thing about this. Sure, should these words even be in their vocabulary where they slip out? No. But people make mistakes, and it's how we grow and learn and develop as people. There are way too many of us out there who are living in these glass houses, throwing stones, saying how terrible of a person they are. They need to be kicked off. And that's not what we're trying to advocate here either. Also, a lot of people are trying to say, oh, well, like, you can't compare it to what Tom did. No, nobody is trying to compare and say one trauma is worse than the other. And if you are trying to say, well, our trauma is worse than their trauma, what you're really then saying is just a little bit of analogy. It's like how there's a lot of the boomer generation who are very against, let's say, canceling student debt because they didn't get their student debt canceled. You could be against it for many different reasons. But if your only reason is, well, we had to deal with trauma first, you should have to deal with it longer because it's not historically long enough. Is that really how we want to be in society, where we don't look out for other people and we don't consider other people's feelings? It's okay if you don't agree, but the idea that you go, well, it's okay because like it's not historically been a thing. Well, that's not really that cool either. Nobody's trying to say it's really worse or on par, but when you have zero tolerance, that means zero tolerance. And it's kind of a shame that they have not addressed it at all. And they really are just kind of sweeping it under the rug. And I think that for now, this will kind of be where we end it. And it'll kind of be the last time we have to really talk about it for now. But I'm sure there will be some other event that will pop up that we will have to talk about this once again. Because when you have that zero tolerance policy, all it will end up doing is causing more issues for people who think they're not going far enough or people who think they're going too far. And I don't see a real end in sight. And I feel like at this rate, we're going to lose not only the live feeds, but potentially maybe even the show. Who knows? And I would hate to see that happen. Other than that, let's move on into the live feed updates and what actually happened yesterday. It seems like things are kind of sticking true. When we ended with yesterday's update, things seem to be like a 6-4 vote to keep Jag in the game and to send Red out. The 4 votes would just kind of be smoke and mirrors, as 2 of the votes would be Bowie and Cameron, who wouldn't know about it, but 2 of the votes would be, let's say, Matt and Cirie, to try and blame Cory in America for the votes. But a lot of that was kind of put into question because they were like, well, are they really going to even believe that America and Cory voted against them? And it would probably cause too many questions anyway. So they were like, maybe we can just talk to Bowie about like joining. And Cirie actually had a conversation with Bowie where she was talking about the vote and possibly even going against it and saying like, would it be smart to like throw a hinky vote in there and make it like, 9-1 since it was going to be unanimous? So it could end up being 9-1 where red goes and Bowie's just like shocked that she voted out red along with everybody else. But it does seem like the most likely scenario is it will end up being 8-2. So we'll see how that kind of all goes, and there's even a possibility it could be 9-1. And the only person that votes for red is his former best friend that he broke up with. So that would really be kind of a shame for him. We did get Jag doing some campaigning, but again, he kind of knows he's good because America made sure that he knows like, hey, like you're fine. Like even though like there was some stuff going on last week, you should be okay. And not to go crazy with, how he did last week with his like interrogations of what the vote was and everything like that, and like how things are going, just to relax and calm down and not be too worried. Izzy had an interesting little cam talk in the pantry where she talked about how tied she is to Cirie and Jared, but she knows at this point she really kind of needs them to move forward in the game, but also she wants to play the game the way she wants, and that's going to be a big part of what she would use if she got to the final two and anybody were to question if she was just playing for them, that this is how she wanted to play. She wanted to play with Cirie. She knew from the moment she saw Cirie and Jared that they were mother and son, and she wanted to use that to her advantage. And I think she has a good case. I don't know if many people will support her in that, but also I think this is going to be a very bitter jury. So if she does end up in the seats next to Jared or Cirie, I could see a way where she ends up being the one to take home the crown. She also had a little candy strategy session. Always fun to see the house guests break that out as she brought some M&Ms out for her and Jared, where she was basically saying like, hey, let's bring Bowie and Blue. They can be our goats, right? Like they're the ones that we can drag to the end and beat, right? We don't have to worry about them. We can also kind of get them two plus Izzy, Jared, and Cirie. That would be our final 5. They could take Cory to final 6, but you really don't want to take them any further than final 4 because that's when it starts to get dangerous and he could maybe take shots at them. They then talk about how, it's probably good if Cameron and Jag both go next. After that, they can worry about Matt and Felicia. And then after that, they would worry about Mimi, America, and Cory in some order along the way. But they also kind of worry about how close Cory and America are and how much Cory seems to be kind of falling for America. And they also worry because he had told them about his brother. And he told them that they are the only ones to know, that he wasn't sharing this with everybody. But they're pretty sure he told America. And if he told America that, he's obviously telling America more things. So that is something that they are worried about. Cirie actually was someone they were worrying about too, because they said, hey, this is something that I've mentioned as well. Survivor would be over pretty much at this point. Even the old school Survivor barely would go this long. Like most of the time they were done. Survivor Australia, they go for like 50 days over there. They do a marathon over in in Survivor Australia, I should say. But regular Survivor, 39 days. That's it. We're at 37. It would literally be in the final stretch of Survivor. And they're noticing that Cirie is getting so frustrated. And they really kind of wonder, like, can we keep this up? And they kind of worry about it. They got to kind of make sure she's in check. Along with that, she kind of joined them in the little discussion and she left, and that kind of caused some stress. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. But even with that, part of that frustration is how she's going after Felicia. And we talked about how there's this bit of a cold war brewing between the two of them where they're both kind of talking about each other. behind the back. And to be honest, there's no real threat there, right? Like, I understand a little bit because one of the things is Cirie comes from Survivor, and everybody kind of knows her big strategic, like, mastermind play is the 3-2-1 vote. If you're unaware, she was in, it was final 6, right? And she was in the final 6, but there was one person there that everyone was going to take the final 2 with them. She wanted to make sure that person was out of there, because if it wasn't her, why is it good for her? So she was able to set it up where the majority of the alliance were all going to be voting one way, and their votes were kind of split up, where her and 2 others were able to vote all on that person that they wanted to get out. So it ended up being 3-2-1, and that person was voted out of the game. It's something that has become more and more of a strategy in Survivor, where you're getting close to the end. If you know there's someone that is going to be taken, you kind of want to take them out, because then it opens up a spot for somebody else in that final 2, final 3 scenario. With Big Brother, though, with so much of the game being in that late game, and I like to say from final 7 on, that's when the game becomes all about competitions. Before final 7, it's all social game. It's all about making those connections, making those relationships with people to get you further, and then eventually be the one to win at the very end. But from final 7 on, it's all about the competitions, when you win them, and how important they are, because you have the power. Especially, you want to be able to play in that final 4 HOH, so you kind of get 2 shots at safety to get to the final 3. So it's a lot of times really good to maybe not win that final 5 HOH, but win the final 6 HOH. Vetoes are always very important once you get to that very end, because you start getting a lot of control over who is going to be sitting in those seats at the end. Even if it's not you, you can make sure that somebody who is that you don't want gone isn't sitting in those seats and is also voting next to you. So again, competitions become so huge that Felicia is somebody that you want in the final 7. You want Felicia there as long as you can. You want Felicia there final 3, so that there's no question that you guys are going to beat her in those final competitions. And while, yeah, she's messy and it's causing a lot of stress, I feel like it's way too early to take her out and worry about this. But now it kind of seems like they're ready that if they can't get Cameron next week, Felicia should be the one to go. Which, again, it's kind of a wild strategy. I get it. It works in Survivor, but I don't know if it's really a good idea here. We also had her going in on Izzy from frustration, because later on, Jared filled her in on how Izzy was really frustrated with her not hanging out for the little candy meeting. And it was kind of a fun little outburst where she was like, I've seen the M&Ms before. Why do I have to need to see them again? So it kind of like went from 0 to 100 really quickly in the pantry. But again, they also are kind of worried that at least Jared is, he's kind of noticed she's been getting close to Cory. She's been getting close to America. And it feels like she's almost forming a little bit of a B team that she could potentially use once they get later into the game. So we'll see how that all kind of breaks out as well. Just something to kind of keep in mind. Jared and Matt had a convo with Cameron. This was something that was mentioned in yesterday's update, where this is just more of keeping an eye on Cameron in case he wins HOH, because they want to be able to kind of have at least some influence on it, and they don't end up on the block if he ends up winning that HOH. After that, though, we had Matt, Jag, and Blue kind of meet up in the have-not room, and they started talking about the vote. And they kind of wonder if the 6-4 or 7-3 actually is still a good plan and would be good for them, since if they can blame it on America and Cory, it would end up being maybe something like America and Jag up on the block, or Cory and Matt up on the block, or some combination where it doesn't end up being 2 of the 3 of Matt, Jag, and Blue up there together on the block. And they kind of bring this idea to Jared, who again was like, listen, I hear you, but also all that's going to do if you take that to other people is make them think that you're watching your own butts, which is exactly what they're doing. They're trying to save themselves. But he's actually got a bit of a point there. Now, Cirie and Izzy headed upstairs to the HOH room to kind of join this conversation. But Jared actually left this. And the reason why they went up there was because while this was happening, Mimi and Red were having a very long conversation in the comic room, which actually started to make them like uneasy. They were like, why are they in there so long talking? During this conversation, there wasn't really much that we actually got to see really, but some of it that we did see was really just them kind of talking and chatting about like what's going on. And Mimi said like, yeah, I heard some rumblings about votes, but I think you're fine. Like, you don't have to worry. He kind of asked her like, oh, what would you do next week? And she was like, yeah, you know, there's just lots of options. You know, America's an option. Jag's an option. Oops. Maybe you shouldn't have said Jag. But she played it off really well because he's like, well, he'd be gone. And she goes, oh, yeah, right. So she played it off really well. But other than that, just a little slip up. There wasn't too much. But again, while I said Cirie and Izzy headed upstairs, when that happened, Jared, he made his way downstairs over to the scary room where Cameron was asleep. And what does Jared do? But he lets him know that, hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's real or not, but Felicia has been making noise about getting Red out. He was like, what? Which, listen, I know we don't always give Jared a lot of credit for his gameplay, and a lot of times he makes some really bad mistakes. This could be bad because maybe it lets Cameron in on what's going on, and then he starts making noise tomorrow and things get out of control, and maybe it flips back to Red. But also, it is kind of smart for him to be the one to tip him off when others actually ended up saying, hey, tomorrow morning we'll tell Cameron, like, there started to be word of a flip, and like we just went with it because we didn't know. And if Jared's the first one to tell him, that makes him a little bit more trusting of Jared, and he won't put Jared up on the block, which again is smart for Jared. It's not exactly smart if you want to keep it the same and make sure that Red goes. But I don't think Jared really cares who goes between Red and Jag. I think for him, he could be happy with Jag leaving because all that will do is bring Blue closer to him. That's as somebody that where she wouldn't have another option to go to. So I got to give him a little bit of credit, right? It may blow up and it may cause issues, but I think overall it was a smart move for him to do this. We'll see. We'll see how it works. Other than that, we had America and Cory kind of chatting. They were talking about, you know, fake alliances, which ones they thought were real. And Cory actually said, like, the only one he kind of holds for real. And America's like, you better say the showmans. Well, faux-mans. And that's the thing. I did not realize they've actually named their, like, little final two thing the faux-mans. Like, I just thought, like, oh, it was just kind of a thing. Like, they're saying it's a faux-mans because it's not really a showmans. But no, they've actually named themselves that. Like, that is what they're calling their little pairing. So she's like, you better say the faux-mans or I'm throwing hands. And he's like, oh, well, of course. But the only other one that he kind of thinks is somewhat legit and that he puts any weight into is for real. And we can kind of bring up our little chart here. And you can see for real, it's basically Cirie, Izzy, Felicia, Jared, Mimi, America, and Cory. And I have it labeled as kind of fake because it is. But you know what? I like America's way of it too, where she called it for fake. So that was really good. I might have to relabel it fake. He also pushed to America that it would be really good for her to win HOH. And she kind of talks about how much she wants to do it too. And she would love to win HOH. And she would also love to see the updates that if she won HOH, listen, we all want to see you win HOH as well, because you're one of the only ones who's ready to take shots at the other side, and I'm excited to see what she would do with her HOH. Though, to be honest, I think she would just end up nominating Cam. Though it's probably not great for her and Cory's game for Cameron to go, because I don't think he would necessarily go for them right now. Especially after this blindside that he's about to endure. But they talked about that, and I'll tell you what, if America wins HOH tonight, tomorrow's update, I will sing God Bless America, just like Lauren Hart at the opener for a Flyers game. I will go and do it big time just for America if she wins HOH. The one other little thing we had to kind of cap off the night was a little bit of goofiness I want to talk about. So before going to bed the other night, Matt and Jag had a little bit of a midnight snack. They found some steak that was left over in the fridge from Red's birthday, and they were like, hey, let's make this up. They made some like little quesadillas and stuff. They were snacking, they were eating good. Well, this morning, Mimi wanted to make some steak and eggs, and she was very disappointed. To be fair, I do not think Jag and Matt knew they were her steak pieces that were left over, but they ended up eating them. That then led to like a little bit of back and forth between them. It was just all kind of in good fun. Like nobody was too upset and like they were apologetic. But at the end of the night, there were some leftovers from last night's dinner. And Mimi was like, I'm going to make sure to hide these. So she spends time hiding it in the storage room refrigerator. Meanwhile, Matt and Jag are hiding outside of the storage room, but like obviously hiding. Like Matt was under a blanket, just kind of like curled up, and like Jag was like just standing behind the dresser like Mimi immediately sees Jag. Jag ducks under the blanket and he goes, I don't think she's gonna see us. So then they slowly crawl into the storage room, which Mimi just follows them in. Matt stands up. He's like, I think the coast is clear. Turns around, sees her. He's like, oh no. It was just good fun. Nothing really too serious, but I don't know. I thought it would be fun to mention to you guys, because like I said, when I see something like that's that entertaining, I gotta tell you guys about it. I don't normally bring that up, but I enjoyed watching them go through their shenanigans. And they even said to her, like, you didn't have to hide it. We weren't going to do it after you told us not to. But yeah, that pretty much covers it for everything from the episode to the update for the live feed yesterday. It should be Red leaving. We'll see, though. You guys know what it's like with this group. Anything can happen, and with Jared telling Cameron, that kind of adds some fuel that maybe things will kind of flip, because it will go, well, wait a minute, who told Cameron? And things might start getting a little bit crazy. So anything can happen before tonight's vote. But if I had to guess, I would imagine it would be Red who's leaving at this point. What do you guys think about everything going on? Who do you think will be evicted tonight? Let me know in those comments down below. Thank you guys again so much for watching. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Yeah, thank you guys again so much for watching. Check out the links to all my socials in the description down below. Pin comment. You can find things like my Kick, Twitch, Twitter, Discord. You can join the conversation over on Discord. You can join the Kick streams and the Twitch streams. I've been trying to kind of get into those. We've been having some fun doing those before the episodes. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you next time.